Good evening, dear traveler. Tonight, there is nowhere you need to be, nothing you need to solve, and nothing you need to remember. Allow the world outside to fade into the distance. Let your breathing become slow and effortless. Feel the weight of the day gently leaving your body. As you close your eyes, imagine yourself standing beneath a sky unlike any you have ever seen. There are no cities, no roads, no voices. Only endless silence stretching farther than the imagination can reach. Tonight, we are traveling farther back than history, farther back than the first kings, farther back than the oldest mountains. We are traveling to the very beginning, to a moment when even time had not yet learned how to move. The ancient Greeks believed that every river, every mountain, every star, and every living creature could trace its story back to a single mysterious beginning. That beginning was called chaos. Today, the word chaos often brings to mind confusion, noise, and disorder. But to the ancient storytellers, chaos meant something entirely different. It was the great empty space before creation, a limitless silence, a place without light or darkness, without warmth or cold, without earth beneath your feet, without sky above your head. There was no sunrise because there was no sun. There were no stars because there was no night. There was no ocean because there was no shore. Even the idea of before and after had no meaning, for time itself had not yet begun. Imagine floating in an endless calm. No wind touches your skin. No sound reaches your ears. No heartbeat marks the passing of moments. Only perfect stillness. For an unknowable span of existence, chaos remained unchanged. Then, gently, almost like the first quiet breath after a long sleep, something new appeared. From the silent emptiness came Gaia. Gaia was not simply a goddess. She was the earth itself. Every valley that would one day cradle forests, every mountain that would rise proudly toward the heavens, every field that would one day bloom with flowers, all of it already rested quietly within her. She was patient. She was steady. She carried within herself the promise of every living thing that would ever exist. Though the world was still empty, Gaia was filled with possibility. Soon another ancient power emerged. His name was Tartarus. Far below where the earth would someday stretch, Tartarus became the deepest place imaginable. Not a prison yet, not a kingdom, simply an endless depth, waiting silently for its future purpose. Then came a force unlike any other, Eros. Many people know Eros as the god of love, but in these oldest stories, he was something far greater than romance. He was attraction itself, the invisible force that gently drew separate things toward one another, the quiet power that transformed loneliness into connection. Without Eros, nothing could grow, nothing could join, nothing could become something greater than itself. With earth, depth, and the mysterious force of creation now existing together, the universe slowly awakened, not with thunder, not with fire, but with quiet purpose. Gaia looked upward into the endless emptiness surrounding her. She felt that something was missing. So from herself, she created another great being. She created Uranus, the sky. He stretched endlessly above her, vast beyond imagination. His blue heavens covered Gaia like a protective blanket. For the first time, there was an above and a below. The universe had begun to take shape. Together, Gaia and Uranus became the first great family. From their union came powerful children, unlike anything the universe had ever seen. They were known as the Titans. Each Titan represented a different part of existence. Some would become rulers of oceans. Some would embody wisdom. Others would guide memory, light, or the cycles of nature. Among them was a young Titan named Cronus. Quiet, observant, patient. No one yet knew that this youngest Titan would one day change the fate of the universe forever. As the Titans grew stronger, Gaia herself changed with them. Mountains slowly rose from her body. Their peaks reached toward Uranus like silent prayers. Deep valleys formed between them. Gentle rivers found their winding paths across the land. Invisible seeds of future forests rested beneath the soil, waiting for ages yet to come. The world remained peaceful, beautiful, untouched. There were still no humans, no animals, no birds singing in the morning. Only the first family of creation, living beneath an endless sky. Yet even in this young and beautiful universe, fear had already found a home. Uranus looked upon his children and saw not only strength, but also a future threat. Ancient prophecies whispered that one day, one of his own children might take his place. And that single fear would begin the first great conflict in Greek mythology. A quiet fear had settled inside Uranus. Whenever he looked upon his children, he did not simply see a family. He saw the possibility of change. The Titans were growing stronger with every passing age. Their voices became deeper. Their presence became greater. And somewhere within the endless silence of creation, a whisper seemed to follow him. A whisper that spoke of a future he could neither see nor escape. One day, one of your children will replace you. The thought never left him. Instead of embracing his children, Uranus chose another path. One by one, he forced many of them deep into Gaia herself, into hidden places beneath the earth where no light could reach. There they remained, silent, forgotten, waiting. Gaia felt every sorrow. She was not merely their mother. She was the earth. Every tear shed by her children echoed through her mountains. Every cry became a distant tremor beneath the soil. The valleys grew heavy with sadness. Even the quiet winds seemed to carry a feeling of grief. For countless ages, Gaia endured this pain without complaint. She remained patient, as mountains remain patient through every season, as rivers patiently carve valleys through stone. But patience, even the patience of the earth, has its limits. At last, Gaia decided that the balance of the universe must change. Deep within herself, she gathered the strongest metals that existed in those ancient days. Slowly, carefully, she shaped them into a great curved sickle. Its edge reflected no sunlight, for the sun had not yet been born. Yet it gleamed with a quiet power unlike anything the Titans had ever seen. Gaia called her children together. Her voice rolled gently through the mountains like distant thunder softened by rain. "My children," she said, "who among you will help restore balance to our family?" The Titans lowered their eyes. Some feared Uranus. Others believed nothing could ever change. The silence stretched on. Then, one figure stepped forward. Cronus, the youngest of the mighty Titans. Unlike many of his brothers, Cronus spoke very little. He listened. He observed. He waited. There was a calmness about him. Not the calmness of weakness, but the calmness of someone who understood the value of patience. Gaia looked into his eyes. She saw determination, not anger, not hatred, only quiet resolve. She placed the great sickle into his hands. The ancient metal felt strangely light, as though destiny itself carried part of its weight. Cronus accepted the task without celebration, without pride, without a single boastful word, for he understood that even necessary change often carried sorrow. Night slowly spread across the newborn world. Though there was no moon yet, and no familiar stars, darkness gently covered the earth. Gaia remained perfectly still. Mountains rested in silence. The seas whispered softly against the empty shores. Cronus hid within the shadows, waiting, listening, breathing slowly, Time seemed almost unwilling to move. Then Uranus descended from the heavens, stretching himself once more across Gaia. Everything became quiet, so quiet that even eternity seemed to pause. At that single moment, Cronus emerged, swiftly, silently. He lifted the sickle, and with one decisive movement, he ended the rule of Uranus. The heavens trembled, not with violence alone, but with transformation. For this was the first great turning point in existence. The first time power had passed from one generation to the next. The first reminder that no ruler, however mighty, could hold authority forever. From the place where Uranus departed, strange and wonderful things entered the world. The ancient storytellers believed that every great ending also became the beginning of something unexpected. From drops that fell into the endless sea, white foam gathered upon the gentle waves. The waters shimmered softly beneath the empty sky. For many ages, the foam drifted peacefully across the quiet ocean. Then, something beautiful appeared. A graceful figure slowly rose from the sea. She was Aphrodite. Though many remember her as the goddess of love and beauty, her birth also carried another meaning. She reminded the ancient Greeks that beauty can sometimes emerge from sorrow, that peace may quietly follow conflict. As Aphrodite stepped upon the waves, the sea itself seemed calmer. Gentle breezes moved across the water. Invisible flowers, not yet known to humankind, seemed almost ready to bloom. Even the universe appeared to breathe more softly. Meanwhile, Cronus became the new ruler of creation. The Titans welcomed him as their king. For the first time, the age of the Titans had truly begun. It was a quieter age than the legends of later gods. There were no thunderbolts, no mighty temples, no heroes sailing across distant seas, only enormous beings shaping mountains, guiding rivers, watching the young universe slowly awaken. Under Cronus, the earth continued to grow. Great forests spread across the land. Crystal rivers found new paths toward the sea. The first gentle rains fell from the sky. Clouds wandered peacefully above distant mountains. Everything seemed balanced once more, or so it appeared, because deep within Cronus, a single memory remained. He remembered the prophecy that had haunted Uranus. He remembered how fear had changed his father. And although he promised himself he would rule differently, fear has a curious way of repeating itself, very slowly, almost unnoticed, like a shadow growing longer as evening approaches. Cronus began to wonder, could the same fate one day become his own? Would one of his children rise against him? Would history quietly repeat itself? These questions settled into his thoughts like tiny seeds carried by the wind. For now, they remained only questions. But in time, those questions would grow, and they would shape the destiny of gods, titans, and mortals alike. As the quiet night covered the ancient world once again, the mountains stood peacefully beneath the endless heavens. The seas continued their slow rhythm, and somewhere beyond the silence, fate was already preparing the birth of a child named Zeus. The age of the Titans unfolded with remarkable calm. For countless generations, the world seemed to breathe in perfect balance. Great mountains stood unmoving beneath the endless sky. Ancient rivers wandered quietly toward distant seas. The forests grew thicker with every passing age, though no human footsteps had yet disturbed their peaceful paths. There were no kingdoms, no cities, no wars, only the slow rhythm of a young world discovering itself. Cronus ruled from the highest places of the earth. His voice was rarely raised. His commands were few. Many of the Titans believed that the troubles of the past had finally come to an end. But even the quietest heart can carry hidden fears. Whenever Cronus stood alone beneath the stars, he remembered his father. He remembered Uranus. He remembered the prophecy. And although he had become king through destiny, he wondered if destiny could one day turn against him as well. The thought arrived softly at first. Then it returned again and again, until it became impossible to ignore. In time, Cronus married his sister, Rhea. Rhea was gentle where Cronus was reserved. She represented motherhood, nurturing, and the quiet strength found in compassion. Wherever she walked, life seemed to flourish. The valleys appeared greener. The streams sounded softer. Even the winds carried a peaceful warmth. Together, Cronus and Rhea became the rulers of the Titan world. Soon, their first child was born. For a brief moment, joy replaced fear. Cronus held the child in silence. The tiny life before him carried endless possibilities. Yet almost immediately, the ancient prophecy returned to his thoughts. One of your children will overthrow you. The words echoed through his mind like distant thunder rolling across empty hills. Fear can change even the wisest ruler, and fear changed Cronus. Unable to trust fate, unable to trust tomorrow, he made a terrible decision. Instead of raising his newborn child, he swallowed the infant whole. The ancient stories tell us that the child did not perish. Instead, the child remained alive within Cronus himself, hidden, waiting. Rhea watched in horror. Her joy vanished into silence, yet she hoped this terrible act would never happen again. But when a second child was born, Cronus did the same. Then a third, a fourth, and a fifth. One after another, Hestia, Demeter, Hera, Hades, Poseidon. Each newborn disappeared into the darkness within their father's endless fear. The halls of the Titans grew quieter. No laughter echoed through them. No children's voices drifted across the mountains. Only Rhea's sorrow remained. She loved every child she had carried. She remembered every tiny face, every small hand, every gentle breath. Though the world outside remained peaceful, her heart carried an endless winter. Many nights she wandered alone across the quiet hills. The stars above offered no answers, only silent companionship. She whispered the names of her children into the wind, hoping somehow, somewhere, they could still hear her. As the ages passed, Rhea became pregnant once more, a sixth child. This time, she could not allow history to repeat itself. Quietly, she sought the wisdom of Gaia. The ancient Mother Earth listened with endless patience. Nothing escaped Gaia's understanding. She had witnessed the rise of Uranus, the fall of Uranus, the reign of Cronus, and she already sensed that another great change was approaching. Together, Gaia and Rhea formed a careful plan. Far away from Cronus, across the sparkling waters of the southern sea, lay the peaceful island of Crete. It was a place of gentle mountains, hidden caves, and quiet forests where only birds and soft breezes broke the silence. There, beneath the shelter of the earth itself, Rhea gave birth to her youngest son. His name was Zeus. The night was calm. The stars seemed unusually bright. Even the wind moved carefully, as though nature itself wished to protect the sleeping child. Zeus rested peacefully in his mother's arms, completely unaware that the future of gods and mortals would one day rest upon his shoulders. Rhea held him close for only a short while. Every moment felt precious. Every breath became a memory. Soon, she wrapped a smooth stone in soft blankets. From a distance, it looked exactly like a sleeping infant. With quiet determination, she carried the wrapped stone back to Cronus. He barely looked down. His fear had long since blinded him. Without hesitation, he swallowed the bundle, believing he had once again escaped the prophecy. For the first time in many ages, hope quietly entered the world. Hidden safely within a peaceful cave, the true child remained alive, protected, loved, waiting. Far from the halls of the Titans, the infant Zeus slept beneath the island's ancient cliffs. The sound of distant waves echoed gently through the cave. Cool air drifted across the stone walls. Outside, olive trees swayed softly in the evening breeze. Wild goats wandered peacefully along the mountainsides. The world seemed unaware that within this quiet refuge, the future king of Olympus had taken his very first breath. And while Cronus believed his throne secure, fate, patient as ever, had already begun writing the next chapter of the universe. The child would grow, the prophecy would awaken, and one day, the heavens themselves would witness another great turning of the ages. But that story would have to wait until the stars had watched a few more peaceful nights pass over the silent island of Crete, far from the throne of Cronus, far from the halls of the Titans. The island of Crete rested peacefully beneath an endless canopy of stars. Its mountains rose gently above the sea. Ancient olive trees covered the hillsides. Clear streams wound quietly through hidden valleys before disappearing into the deep blue waters below. In one secluded cave, sheltered by the earth itself, the infant Zeus slept. The cave was cool during the day and comforting during the quiet hours of the night. Drops of water fell slowly from the ceiling onto smooth stones below. Each gentle sound echoed softly through the darkness. It became the first lullaby the young god would ever hear. Rhea visited whenever she safely could. Each visit was precious. She held Zeus close. She whispered stories of the peaceful world she hoped he would one day protect. Although he was only an infant, she believed he somehow understood. After each visit, she quietly returned to the world of the Titans, leaving behind another silent promise that she would return again. Zeus was never truly alone. Ancient guardians watched over him. Among them was the gentle goat, Amalthea. The old storytellers remembered Amalthea with great affection. She wandered freely among the green hills of Crete. Her calm eyes reflected the peaceful nature of the island itself. She nourished the young child, providing everything he needed to grow strong. Nearby, the forests remained filled with quiet life. Birds greeted each sunrise with soft songs. Small streams sparkled beneath the morning light. Wildflowers covered open meadows with gentle colors. The island seemed almost untouched by fear, as though nature itself had become a sanctuary. Yet everyone who protected Zeus understood one important truth. Cronus must never discover where the child had been hidden. Whenever Zeus cried, the sound could not be allowed to travel beyond the cave. So a loyal band of ancient guardians stood watch outside. They were known as the Curetes. Each time the child began to cry, the Curetes raised their bronze shields. They struck them together in slow, powerful rhythms. The echoes rolled across the mountains. The sounds blended with thunder, with crashing waves, with the distant voice of the wind. Anyone listening from afar would hear only the music of nature, never the voice of a hidden child. Night after night, year after year, the guardians never abandoned their duty. Time passed differently in those ancient days. The seasons flowed gently across the island. Spring covered the hills with flowers. Summer warmed the forests with golden sunlight. Autumn painted the valleys in quiet shades of amber. Winter arrived softly, never harsh, only peaceful. Zeus grew with every passing season. He became curious about everything around him. He watched birds glide across the morning sky. He followed butterflies through fields of wild herbs. He listened carefully to rivers as they whispered over smooth stones. Sometimes, he climbed high upon the cliffs overlooking the sea. From there, the world seemed endless. The waves stretched toward horizons no eye could fully reach. The sky changed colors with every sunset. Soft blue became gold. Gold became crimson. Crimson slowly faded into deep violet. As the first stars appeared, young Zeus often sat in silence. He felt that the universe carried hidden stories. Stories older than mountains, older than oceans, older even than the stars themselves. Though no one had yet revealed the truth, something deep within him sensed that he had been born for a greater purpose. Not because he desired power, but because he longed to understand the balance of the world. Gaia watched from afar. The ancient earth needed no messenger. She felt every step Zeus took upon her mountains, every breath he drew, every quiet moment spent beneath the stars. She knew the prophecy continued to unfold, not through violence, not through anger, but through patience. Far away, Cronus remained upon his throne. The passing years brought him comfort. He believed the prophecy had been defeated. His children remained imprisoned within him. No rivals challenged his authority. The kingdom appeared peaceful. Yet sometimes, in the quiet hours before dawn, Cronus would awaken from uneasy dreams. He dreamed of distant thunder. He dreamed of an eagle soaring above unfamiliar mountains. He dreamed of a young figure standing where no child should exist. Each morning, he dismissed the dreams as meaningless. But fate rarely announces itself with loud voices. Instead, it arrives quietly, like morning mist drifting across a silent valley, like a single seed carried by the wind, growing unnoticed, until one day it becomes impossible to ignore. On the peaceful island of Crete, Zeus continued to grow, no longer an infant, no longer merely a child. Strength settled gently into his hands. Wisdom slowly found its place within his heart. And although he still knew nothing of the throne, nothing of the Titans, nothing of the brothers and sisters waiting in darkness, the time was approaching. Very soon, the hidden child would learn the truth about his family. Very soon, he would leave the peaceful cave that had protected him since birth. And when that day arrived, the quiet age of the Titans would begin its final chapter. For no ruler, not even one as mighty as Cronus, could remain above destiny forever. The years passed as gently as drifting clouds. On the island of Crete, the child who had once slept peacefully beneath the mountain had grown into a thoughtful young man. Zeus had become strong, not only in body, but in spirit. He moved quietly through the forests. He climbed the highest cliffs without fear. He listened more than he spoke. The island had become his teacher. The rivers had taught him patience. The mountains had taught him endurance. The sea had taught him that even the strongest waves always return to calm. Although Zeus lived in peace, questions slowly filled his heart. Why had he never met his father? Why did the guardians watch over him so carefully? Why did his mother always leave before sunrise? No one answered. Not yet. The time had not come. One quiet evening, as the last light faded beyond the western sea, Gaia appeared before him. She did not arrive with thunder, nor with brilliant light. She simply seemed to become part of the landscape itself, as ancient, as timeless as the earth beneath his feet. Zeus bowed his head with quiet respect. Gaia smiled gently. "You have grown," she said. "The world has been waiting for this day." Together they walked through the silent hills. The evening breeze carried the scent of pine trees and wild herbs. Far below, the sea reflected thousands of stars. For a long time, neither of them spoke. Finally, Gaia told him the story. She spoke of chaos, of the birth of the earth, of Uranus, of the Titans, of Cronus. She spoke of fear and how fear had become stronger than love. Then, she told Zeus about his brothers and sisters, still alive, still waiting, hidden within the body of Cronus. Zeus stood silently beneath the stars. He felt no anger, only sadness. To imagine brothers and sisters who had never seen the sky, who had never walked beside a river, who had never felt the warmth of sunlight, filled his heart with quiet compassion. Gaia watched carefully. She had expected rage. Instead, she found kindness. Perhaps, she thought, that was exactly what the universe needed. Before dawn, another visitor arrived. It was Metis. Among the ancient gods, Metis was known for wisdom, not the wisdom found in books, but the wisdom that understands people, choices, and the quiet paths hidden between impossible decisions. Metis greeted Zeus with warmth. The strongest victory, she told him, is rarely won by strength alone. She explained that confronting Cronus directly would bring only destruction. There was another way, a quieter way, a wiser way. Together, they prepared a special drink. It appeared ordinary, clear as fresh spring water. Yet hidden within it was a powerful enchantment. If Cronus drank it, he would be unable to keep within him everything he had swallowed. Zeus accepted the task calmly. He did not celebrate. He did not boast. He understood that even necessary battles carried sorrow. The following morning, he left the island that had been his home since birth. Before boarding a small wooden boat, he looked back one final time. The cave remained hidden among the cliffs. Olive trees swayed gently in the breeze. The sea sparkled beneath the rising sun. For a moment, everything was perfectly still. Then, the boat drifted quietly away from the shore. Days later, Zeus arrived in the lands ruled by Cronus, disguised as a humble servant. He entered the great halls of the Titans unnoticed. The palace was magnificent. Its towering pillars reached high into the sky. Golden light reflected across polished stone floors. Everything appeared peaceful. Yet beneath the beauty, an invisible tension remained. Cronus sat upon his throne, older now, still powerful, still respected, but no longer entirely at peace. His eyes carried the weight of years spent fearing a prophecy he believed he had escaped. Zeus approached slowly, with calm hands. He offered the enchanted drink. Cronus accepted it without suspicion. He thanked the young servant. Then, he drank. At first, nothing happened. The palace remained silent. The Titans continued their conversations. The breeze drifted gently through the open halls. Then, Cronus paused. A strange feeling passed through him. The enchantment had begun. Deep within him, the years themselves seemed to awaken. One after another, the children he had swallowed so long ago returned to the world. First came Hestia, then Demeter, then Hera, then Hades, then Poseidon. Though countless years had passed, they emerged unharmed, immortal, exactly as they had entered. For gods, time moves differently. The palace fell completely silent. No one spoke. The prophecy had finally begun. The brothers and sisters looked around with quiet wonder. For the very first time, they saw the open sky. They felt fresh air upon their faces. They stood together beneath the light of the heavens, and among them, a young stranger smiled warmly. At last, they understood. This was Zeus, the youngest brother, the child who had escaped, the one fate had quietly protected all those years. No victory cries echoed through the halls. No celebration disturbed the silence. Only hope, softly returning to a family that had waited through ages of darkness. Far above, The clouds slowly gathered. A distant rumble rolled across the mountains, not as a warning, but as the first gentle heartbeat of a new age that was about to begin. The halls of the Titans had never known such silence. Cronus remained seated upon his great throne. His hands rested motionless. His eyes wandered from one face to another. For countless ages, he had believed the prophecy had been defeated. Now, standing before him, were the very children he had tried so desperately to keep from destiny. No one spoke. The quiet seemed to stretch across the mountains, across the seas, across the heavens themselves. At last, Cronus lowered his head. The fear that had ruled his heart for so many years had not protected him. It had only guided him toward the future he wished to escape. Zeus looked upon his father. He felt no joy in seeing him defeated, only understanding, fear. He had learned often becomes its own prison. The brothers and sisters gathered together for the very first time. Hestia smiled with gentle kindness. Demeter looked toward the distant valleys, imagining fields that had yet to bloom. Hera stood with quiet dignity beside her family. Poseidon listened to the endless rhythm of the sea, as though the waves had been calling his name since the beginning of time. Hades gazed thoughtfully toward the deep places beneath the earth. Each of them carried a destiny still waiting to unfold. Gaia soon appeared once more. The ancient earth welcomed the reunited family with calm wisdom. "The path before you," she said softly, "will not be easy. But every age must eventually give way to another." She reminded Zeus that there were still powerful allies hidden within the world. Long ago, when Uranus had feared his own children, he had imprisoned not only Titans. Deep beneath the earth, two ancient races still waited in darkness. The Cyclopes, master craftsmen with a single brilliant eye, and the Hecatoncheires, the mighty hundred-handed giants whose strength was greater than mountains themselves. Though feared by many, they had committed no crime beyond being powerful. Zeus listened carefully. Without delay, he journeyed deep into the ancient places beneath the earth. The passages were quiet. Cool air drifted through endless caverns. Underground rivers reflected faint light like flowing silver. At last, he reached the forgotten prisons. There, the Cyclopes waited with remarkable patience. Their single eyes shone not with anger, but with quiet hope. Zeus stepped forward. Without demanding loyalty, without asking for reward, he simply broke the chains that had held them for countless ages. Freedom returned once again. The great craftsmen bowed their heads. Gratitude needed very few words. As a gift, they forged something extraordinary. For Zeus, they created the first thunderbolt, not merely a weapon, but a symbol. A reminder that light can emerge even from the darkest storm. For Poseidon, they shaped a magnificent trident, 3 shining points, strong enough to calm seas or awaken them. For Hades, they crafted a mysterious helm, a gift that allowed its wearer to move unseen through shadow and silence. Each gift reflected the nature of the one who would carry it. The Hecatoncheires also emerged into the light. Their countless hands no longer carried chains. Instead, they stretched freely toward the open sky. The earth itself seemed to breathe easier. The world had regained ancient friends it had almost forgotten. Meanwhile, the Titans watched these events with growing concern. Many remained loyal to Cronus. Others quietly questioned whether the old age had reached its natural end. The universe itself seemed suspended between 2 eras. The wind carried uncertainty across distant mountains. Clouds gathered slowly over the horizon. Yet no battle had begun, only preparation, only quiet anticipation. One evening, Zeus climbed to the highest peak he could find. Below him, the forests stretched endlessly. The rivers shimmered beneath the fading sunlight. Far away, the sea reflected the colors of the evening sky: gold, amber, deep violet. One by one, the first stars appeared. Zeus sat alone. The thunderbolt rested beside him. He closed his eyes. He listened, not to the wind, not to the sea, but to the silence between them. For even silence has a voice, if one is patient enough to hear it. He understood that the days ahead would change the universe forever, but he also understood something equally important. Power alone could never create peace. Wisdom, compassion, patience, these would matter just as much. The ancient world waited. Mountains stood motionless beneath the heavens. The forests whispered softly with the evening breeze. The oceans continued their endless rhythm against forgotten shores. Everything seemed calm. Yet somewhere beyond the distant horizon, the first great war of the gods quietly approached. A war not born from hatred, but from the eternal turning of time itself. One generation, making way for the next. And so, as the stars slowly filled the heavens, the young Zeus looked toward tomorrow. Not with pride, not with fear, but with quiet determination. Because every journey, no matter how great, begins with a single peaceful step. And tonight, as the ancient world settles into silence once more, you too may leave these mountains behind. Leave the quiet forests, the endless seas, and the timeless halls of the Titans. Carry with you only their calm, only their patience, only the gentle reminder that even after the longest night, a new dawn always arrives. Sleep peacefully, and when our journey continues, we will witness the great Titan War, the rise of Mount Olympus, and the beginning of the age of the Olympian gods. Until then, may your dreams be as quiet as the first stars and as timeless as the oldest stories ever told.